Hi, it's Alexis Hasselberger, time management and productivity coach. So, today I want to talk about three key questions that I use all the time in all sorts of situations. I think of these as kind of the magic questions for when you're feeling stuck, when things are not going as well, or even just reflection, even when things are going great. These are three questions that you can use. These questions are really valuable for a number of reasons. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you what they are in just a second. But you can also use them in a ton of situations. So I think if you can remember these three questions, there are going to be so many ways that you can actually use this going forward. Now, what are these questions, right? The questions that you can ask in any number of situations to help improve things are these. They're simple. So the first one is, what's going well? Because we want to identify what we can double down on, right? So what's going well? Great. Second question is, what's not going so well, right? Because we also want to identify what we could improve upon, right? And the third question is related to the second question. It's, what can we try? What can we experiment with to improve the things that are not going as well as we'd like? Now, did I make up these questions? No, I absolutely did not. I learned them many, many, many years ago from the Agile framework for software development. But they're useful in so many other ways, right? Like, I'm not a software engineer. I never have been, never will be. These questions are still useful in so many aspects of my life, my relationships, et cetera. And I'm willing to bet that they will be for you too. Now, these questions are simple, right? So why are they so special? Well, there's a few reasons why they're really special. So the first one is that these questions help you to normalize the fact that things aren't always going to be going really well. And this is really important because things aren't always going to be going really well. Like, that's just part of it. And if we wait to talk about these things until there's a really big issue, which is kind of what we want to do, right? We like avoid things. If we wait to talk about these things, then something that was a little small problem is now perhaps a big, huge problem. I remember one time I learned from a coach long, long ago this concept of like the pinch before the punch. If you're feeling something that's like a little negative, something kind of pinched you, rubbed you the wrong way. If you say nothing, right? If nothing happens, then you're like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not going to bring it up, etc. And then it happens again, and then you're like even more annoyed, but you're like, it's still not that big of a deal. And then something similar happens, and all of a sudden you're blowing up, and your reaction is like outsized to the situation, right? And other people don't understand what's going on. But we can actually help stave that back with these questions, right? If we're regularly asking what's not going as well, we are normalizing the fact that, hey, things aren't always going to be going that great. Even if things are going well, there's still things that could be improved. So let's talk about those things. We're normalizing that, right? When we ask these questions regularly. Now, another reason that these questions are really special, I think, is because change is the only constant, right? Things will change. So something that's going well today, exactly as it is, actually, that might not be going as well. I don't know, 3 months from now or 6 months ago, when situations have changed or relationships have changed, et cetera. So these questions help you to be continually improving, even when you feel like, things are going really well. Why should we change anything? Well, things change, right? We might need to change. The other reason that these questions are so special is that they help you to get unstuck. They help you to move forward. And moving forward is really the only thing we can do. We can't go back to the past and change anything. We can only move forward. And these questions help us to figure out what we're going to try, what we're going to experiment with to help move things forward. Now, notice I didn't say what we're going to change, right? I mean, experimentation is change, but it's micro, right? And built into the word experiment or try is that we are going to come back and we're going to evaluate whether this change helped or didn't help and what we should do from there. So it's a little bit less, there's just a little bit less pressure, right? When we're just experimenting to make things move better. So I mentioned that I use these questions in all sorts of situations. Definitely not in in software development because I don't, that's not part of my world, but that's where I got them from. So how can you use them? So there are a lot of different ways, but I want to give you just a few categories of ways that you can use these types of questions. So the first one is just with yourself. On a regular basis, you can ask yourself, hey, what's going really well in my life, in my job, etc. What that I want to double down on, that I want to actively say, like, yeah, I want to keep doing that, right? What's not going as well that I might want to make some improvements for? And what's a small step? What's a small change? What's a small experiment? What's something that I could try to help improve things? Right? Great. So you could ask yourself. Now, what about your team? Right now, if there are, especially if you're on a new team or the things changing, projects, etc., you could build these questions regularly into your schedule to talk to people that you're working on projects with or on teams with. You could ask, "Hey, what's going really well for us with this project, with our team, whatever," so that we can double down on that, so we can codify that. What's not going as well, right? Let's bring things to the surface. Let's make sure that we are acting on things or talking about them before they become big, big issues, right? And what can we try? You're going to get, in a team environment, you're going to get a lot of different answers of what we could try. You're going to agree on, let's try this next and see if that works, see if that helps, right? Not as much pressure because we're not trying to change it forever. Now, what about in your family? We actually, in my family, we have a weekly family meeting. I know that sounds super nerdy, but it's something that totally helps us. And the biggest part of our family meeting is asking these questions. It's what's going really well this week. I think this helps us to, make sure that with our kids, they're teenagers now, but we've been doing this since they were 2 and 4. It really helps to highlight like, oh, what's going well? What are you doing well? Where are we interacting well together as a family? Like, what is smooth, right? What is going on? The next question we ask is, what is not going well? And we bring that to everybody. The kids can say this too. The kids can say, what's not going well is X, Y, or Z. In fact, just yesterday, we were asking this in our family meeting. And one of the things that, I brought up that I thought could be going better was that if my 15-year-old would just like let me know when people were at the house, like when he has friends over, et cetera, so that I don't accidentally like bust into the room, et cetera. And he said, actually, I think what could be going better is if you knocked before you came into my room. And I said, point taken, right? I thought I'd been knocking, but I'd just been going in after knocking. It was more like a warning knock. But you know what? He's a real human person and I can respect his wishes and I can change too. And so I said, no, yeah, you're right. Like I should knock and then I should wait for the response. I should wait for the response before I come in. So he's able to raise things that aren't going well for him, right? My other kid also can raise things that aren't going as well. These are things that I would not know if I wasn't told. And then lastly, like, what are we going to try? And so that was built into this conversation I just shared, but what are we going to try doing differently? So I said, what I can commit to is that I'm going to knock and then I'm going to actually wait for the response. I'm not going to just open the door after I have knocked. I am going to, treat you like the full-fledged human that you are, and I am going to respect that. So that's what I'm going to try. And we're going to see if that works better, right? So you can ask these in your family. You can also ask these in meetings, right? So we have all sorts of meetings for all sorts of things. And I'm willing to bet you have more meetings on your calendar than not only you want, but also than are actually worth your time. Because I think something like 50% of meetings, people feel like, it just wasn't a great use of my time. So in your next meeting, if you have a weekly, let's say status update meeting or a weekly, weekly team meeting or a weekly strategy meeting or something like that, what if you asked these questions and said, hey, what's going well for us? What's going well for us that we want to keep doing in these meetings? Maybe it's around content, maybe it's around agenda, maybe it's around timing, frequency, et cetera. Maybe it's around something else. And then what's not going as well? Like what's not working for us? Maybe there are people who are like, actually, this 8 a.m. meeting no longer works for me now that my kids are in school right now. Or I think we're meeting too often. Do we need to meet this often? Or who knows, right? But there could be any number of things that aren't going as well. And it helps to get everybody's opinion. And then you can say, great, well, what should we try? And maybe we say we try it for a month and then we'll come back and we'll see, is it better? Is it not, et cetera. But we can keep on iterating. So these are these 3 questions that are so versatile that you can apply in so many situations to make things better, whether it's a project, a process, or even a relationship. These 3 questions: what's going well, what's not going as well, and what can we try or experiment with to change what's not going as well? These 3 questions are basically universal. So I would love to know, have you used these questions before? Do you want to use these questions? And in what situations could you imagine yourself using these questions? Let me know in the comments below. Now, of course, if you liked this video, if you learned something, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to keep getting this content in your feed, make sure to subscribe. You can also leave me comments about, what you want to see more of or what you'd like me to do a video on. And I would love to, to make content that is specifically for what you want. So make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, and you'll see me in your feed with tips you can use every single week.
Hi guys, thank you so much for watching, but I have a question for you. Are you subscribed? Because only about 14% of the people that watch our videos are subscribed. Thank you.